with CommonLook Office is you create your document in Word or PowerPoint, and then instead of convert to PDF or save as PDF or print to PDF or whatever the buttons are labeled in the versions that you have, you would choose the tab for CommonLook Office, and then when you choose Create CommonLook PDF, you get this dialog box that comes up that says what standard do you want your PDF to be conformant with. So you would choose WCAG 2.0. Notice here it even says Section 508 2001, right? So that's the old version. Don't pick that one. WCAG 2.0, and then hit OK. So CommonLook tests your Word document against the standard, right? It tells you only have a certain number of days left to do that. So when it opens on the current checkpoint tab. So of all of the checkpoints in WCAG, CommonLook will deal with the ones that are relevant to this document. So for example, I've got images in this document, and you see that it says no alternative text provided. If you're not sure what any checkpoint is asking you for, it tells you in the little yellow box up here what's going on, right? Ensure graphics include appropriate alternative text. If you need even more information, then you should be able to click the More link and get more information, right? But this lets us provide alt text for the images. So for this here, I would just type in something like the CommonLook logo, right? And then hit Next Task, and it takes me to the chart. Right? So for the chart, now I have to decide what's the best alt text for this chart. Right? Now, if you don't want to have a screen reader read it, we can also leave the checkbox down below. It says no textual description is required. That makes it so that this doesn't get tagged. It's artifacted in the PDF. Right? So it's not going to get read, is the thing. Right? So if you have a decorative image that doesn't convey any important information, just don't give it alt text and check that box. Okay. Now for this, subject matter experts or other people might need to weigh in and tell you, like, is every single data point along the way relevant, or is it just that PDF use is on the rise over this time span or whatever, right? So make that decision and then type in your alt text. I'm just going to do right? So chart of PDF use online, for example, okay? If this was a formula, then I could check the checkbox for image as a formula, and it puts it in a formula tag, right? And then for formulas, you still have to give them alt text, right, of what the formula is, but that's how you handle that, okay? You can give it actual text if you're using drop caps, for example, right? So there's that stuff. We recommend you leave the radio button show all instead of choosing this one, show images with no textual description, because for this one, if anything already has alt text, then it won't show up in the list, right? But I take a lot of screenshots, like on a daily basis. In the software that I use, every time I take a screenshot and then put that into Word, it automatically brings in the path information to my desktop. So the alt text is always C:, C the user, Paul Reyes, desktop, blah, 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 which isn't really sufficiently descriptive for what I just took a screenshot of, right? So anyways, this is the user verification thing to verify the alt text. So you can either hit next task or next applicable checkpoint, and it brings me to lists, right? So CommonLook is asking you to make sure that your list items are correct, right? For the list of 5 things, no more, no less, whatever. So the first one's good. The second one is also fine, right? But then the third one, somebody didn't do this nested list thing correctly, right? So they got 1 and 2, and then they got the nested list here with its 2 items, right? But then they didn't know how to get back to item 3, so they just kind of faked it. But meanwhile, you've got a broken list. A screen reader is just going to tell somebody there's a list of 2 items, and then a nested list of 2 items. So I need to fix that. Do You know this trick? So if you hit enter, you get your next nested list thing, right? One way to fix this from here is just hold down shift and hit the tab key, and it bumps you back out, right? Then when I hit the reload button, go to my third list, now I've got the 3 items. See that? So CommonLook's going to make sure that it tags up that list correctly for you. There's the 3 items with the nested list of 2 inside it. Okay? So I can go to the next checkpoint, and here's tables. Now remember, when we were talking about tables in PDF, we said the best thing to do from the authoring standpoint is to not use a table for layout purposes, right? So a better option here would have just been to use the column functionality in Word. But somebody didn't, so they put a table in. So choose the table, and then, but it's a presentation table, right, just for layout. So we can choose that one and then linearize horizontally or vertically, right? So I would choose vertically to get the column on the left and then the column on the right. Are you with me so far? Okay. So then next task takes me to the second table, which is this one here. So sometimes this gets a little bit confusing. It's a data table, so first of all I'm going to choose, it has column headers, right? I'm going to choose that option. And then this is where things get a little bit confusing. Rows with column headers. How many rows are there in the table with column headers in them?
Well, that's tricky. So you count each row underneath it? You do, right? Right?
No.
I see
So-
the question.
Yeah, this I know. I've gone back and forth with development on how to word this question, and some iterations have been better than others. So how many rows in this table? How many rows are there with column headers? What are your column headers?
Quantity and price.
Quantity and price. They're in one row, right?
Yeah, I knew it was a trick question. I knew it.
Yeah, right. So there's one row with column headers. So I leave the default one.
So it's like the span across row, like when you're selecting PDF, the common PDF, how many rows does it span?
Right. Yep. Okay, so there's that. So that's all I need to do for that table. Okay. So then for the next one, now this one's a little bit more complex, right? We've seen this table in PDF, right? So in Office, so choose column and row headers because it has both, right? Column and row headers. So now, how many rows are there with column headers? 3, right? Important domestic, apricots, cherries, A grade, B grade. 3 rows. So bump that number up to 3. Now, how many columns are there with row headers? There's 2, right? This one over here, Perth and Adelaide, and this one over here with wholesale and retail, right? So bump that number up to 2. You can add a table summary if you want to, but that's for WCAG 2.0 AAA. Don't have to if you don't want to, right? So that's it for the tables. Next checkpoint, we come to the color check. So CommonLook brings up all the pages that have color, right? So if you can't see it, it says red text is bad, green text is good. If we show the filter, then you get this little tool that takes away the color, right? So you're like, hey, I don't know what's green or what's red anymore, right? This is what people who are colorblind get, right? So we lose our information. Now, what I would need to do then is I would need to close and return to Word, and I would need to fix this. The rule is not don't use color, right? But don't use color is the only way of conveying information. So I could make 2 lists, a list of good stuff and a list of bad stuff. I could put this in a table and have a column of good stuff and a column of bad stuff, right? Whatever I want to do, but I can't leave it like this. I'm going to for the sake of this example, but this helps you realize, hey, that's an issue, okay? Page 3, again, you've got your chart, right? And when you take the color away, now, if you included in the alt text all of the relevant information, then you really don't need to worry about that, right? Also, if you know, for example, that the chart's being described in the text above or below or in a caption or something, then that helps solve that problem too, okay? Interestingly enough, on this page, there's no color being used right? Technically there is in the header, but headers get artifacted anyways, right? Header or footer pagination artifacts. So in the table though, changing the font from not bold to bold, for example, prompts the color check to make sure that bold, layout, format, blah, 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 isn't the only way that information is being conveyed, right? So it's okay because we just dealt with our table, right? Making sure our table gets tagged up correctly, right? So that's that. Then we have metadata. For the author, it should never be your name, by the way, which the default in Word is probably your name or some abbreviation of your name or your machine that you sign into, right? So you might have to change this to your department or California State Bar Association or whatever, okay? The title you would want to make it relevant, right? Subject and keywords. Keywords often follow the heading levels. Separate the celebrate that there's only less than an hour left. Separate your keywords by semicolons, right? So the different sections of your document, what it's about. Keywords make the document easier to find in online searches, right? That's the whole point. So now links, there's actually 2 checkpoints for links. This first one is making sure that they have appropriate alternative text. So CommonLook is going to take the text that was hyperlinked and make that the alt text, just like in CommonLook PDF, right? Now here, I can edit it. So for example, I might want it to say full DOJ report, put spaces in between, so it doesn't read full Dodge report, for example, right? I talked about this yesterday with if you're using a really long URL, you want it to show on the page, hyperlink better descriptive text, and then remove the hyperlink from the URL, right? So that people don't have to listen to HTTP blah, 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 okay? So that's that one. And then the next checkpoint is actually to make sure that links are using good display text and not the URL, right? So you're like, oh, I just hyperlinked a URL. I should probably change that, which I didn't, so okay. Now you get heading levels. Check for headings and make sure they're not skipped. In fact, heading levels are skipped. It'd be nice if the resolution was a little bit. I lost my resizer. When you zoom correctly on your screen, it'll tell you that there's heading levels being skipped. So, right, starts with a heading 2, then it goes to a heading 1, a heading 2, and so on. So you would need to close and return to Word, and you would need to set your headings correctly. So keep in mind here, this is something that people don't necessarily pay attention to when they're using styles in Word, right? So right now this is set to the normal style, which is going to come in as a paragraph. It's Times New Roman, it's 20, it's bold, and it's centered, right? So when I convert this, in Word, when I change this to a heading 1, it just became Arial 16, bold, not centered, right? So I can change that. A lot of people won't use styles or won't use styles correctly because it changes how the document looks, right? But now that I've just marked this as a heading 1, change it back to Times New Roman, 20, and centered. Visually, I'm right back where I started, but now it's going to be treated like a heading 1. You see the difference? Don't get married to styles or not using styles because of how it looks. Assign your styles correctly and change the look for how you need it to be. Then, right, make sure that this one is a heading 2. That's fine. This one is marked a heading 1, but really it should be a heading 2. So while I'm here, I'm just going to go through the rest of this and make sure. So we got heading 2 there, and there as well, and here, and then for images. So examples of tables, right? So here's your heading 2, and then the sections underneath, right? Presentation table would be a heading 3, simple table is a heading 3, and complex table should be a heading 3 as well, right? Save your work when you do good stuff. And then go back to CommonLook Office and you can continue on. Now, so you kind of want to know where you left off in CommonLook Office, right? So it always opens on the current checkpoint tab, and it's always going to start at the beginning. All right, so here's a little pro tip for you. You know you left off with heading levels. You know you did alt text already. So you can just hit next applicable checkpoint and fast forward through that. Your lists, you know you already addressed them too. So next applicable checkpoint. Now tables, I like to go a little bit slower and make sure that, okay, this one is still set to presentation. That's good. This one's still set to column headers. That's good. This one's still set to column and row. I just reset it actually. So oops, my bad. 3 and 2. All right. Color, we already addressed. Metadata, we addressed. The links, we took care of as well. Notice my spacing for full DOJ report, it stayed, right? The display text. And then I've addressed everything that I needed to address. So then I can make my PDF. I'm going to make sure that it saves to my desktop. Hit save. And CommonLook Office does its thing to generate the PDF. All right. The benefit to this is that you don't have to then go fix your PDF. That's the whole point. All right. So it's going to do its thing. It's going to generate the PDF. It's going to ask you, do you want to see it? And you're going to say, yes, of course I want to see it. And then it's going to say, hey, do you want to generate a compliance report? Probably. So I'm just going to call this one round. Right? So here's the PDF. If I open up the tags, there's my document tag. Open that up. So here's my heading 1, right? So the tag names are going to be based off the styles in Word. So here's my heading 1, my heading 2, and then normal tags for my paragraphs, right? Because the normal style. There's my next heading 2. Here's my list with my list items with my labels and my L bodies. Right? So it took care of that for you. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So here's my bulleted list and so on, or my labels and L bodies. So here's your link with your text and your annotation, right? So, okay. Here's your nested list with your 3 list items. There's your L body. There's your nested list with those 2 parts, right? Okay, so took care of all that for you. So here's my the figure tag with the alt text. And then there's the next one. This is for the chart, right? There you go. So the heading 3 for presentation table, right? And then we linearize the table. So notice in the tag tree, I don't have a table tag. I've got 2 paragraph tags, one for the left side, one for the right side, right? So now your screen reader is not going to say table of blah, blah, blah. There it is. But then when you have your data table, there it is, right? And we open it up. There's the table rows with our THs inside. And then the second row, for example, has the data cells inside as well. All right. In fact, CommonLook Office even links the data cells to the header cells. So you're good there as well. And then for the complex table, right, so here's the first with your THs, or where are we? Right, for imported, domestic, and so on. Just randomly pick this row. Don't even know which one it is. It's that one. So here's the TH for retail, and then your data cells going across that row. Right? So if you can do stuff with accessibility in mind in Word, right, use your styles, use the list functionality, use the column layout. When you're inserting your images in Word, insert them in line with text, right? So where is it? It's under Windows. In Windows 7, it's under wrap text, but place it in line with text. That's how you make sure that your reading order is good, right? As opposed to wrapping text and stuff like that. It makes weird things happen. Okay, so if you're doing stuff like that in Word, then you're going to be set up for greater success. Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. There's videos online, in fact, Jenny was watching a video, I think at the end of lunch, right?
Yeah.
It was my my little demo of CommonLook Office, which is actually on this document. There's other videos and stuff too that we can make available to you too, I'm sure. So,
I sent everything to myself, to my email, everything
Cool.
in those folders. If that's okay.
cool, yeah,
Because it's got everything in there, right?
all right. All right, well, cool. There's that then. Oh yeah, by the way, anything that can get stuck to the Word document does. So for example, I'm back in Word now, right? If I go to the CommonLook logo and check it out, there's the alt text in Word, right? So it's not just for the PDF. Your Word document is accessible as a Word document can be as well now too, right? Now Word has inherent accessibility issues, for example, when it comes to tables, because you can't actually make things THs in Word. So that's a problem, and that's why PDF is actually better. But CommonLook took care of that for you. So. All right. Questions? Going once, going twice? No.